Shalom, Yasharel. Want to give a shout out to all the Hebrews scattered to the four corners and giving all praises and glory to the great I am Yahweh. All right, Israel, we got a lot to chop up on this subject. So the title is Abraham Lincoln Never Freed the Israelites. Now, what if I told you that Abraham Lincoln and his crew had absolutely nothing to do with freeing the Israelites? As a matter of fact, the famous so-called Emancipation Proclamation, had absolutely nothing to do with freeing the Israelites. But contrary to popular beliefs, they would love to have us believe that because they teach that in our schools. They drill it into us at a very young age. Then we grow up believing those dark lies. But when you really look at the history of it, and so initially the Civil War between North and the South was fought by the North to prevent the succession of the Southern states and preserve the Union. Now, this is something that a lot of people won't talk about because when it comes to this, they want to try to throw, it was all about trying to free the Israelites and they were working hard because they didn't want. No, that's a bunch of lies. Now, the South was becoming too powerful for the North. You got to understand the type of finance or type of money, the loot that human labor brought to the South. The North could not compete with it. Had nothing to do with the North feeling sorry for Israelites and then wanting to free them. No, they can care less. And that's why when our people, when they get into politics, I'm voting Democrat, I'm voting Republican. Y'all need to realize these people sleep in the same bed. Neither one of them cares nothing about you. The only difference between the two is one is secretly racist and the other is boldly racist. But they both sleep in the same bed. So the North had to find a severe way to demonize the South because, again, the South was becoming way too powerful. They had a workforce labor that was second to none. Now, don't get it twisted. The North had slaves too. All right. Some people believe that, there was no slaves going on in the North. You do the history of New Jersey. You do the history of New Hampshire. You do the study of these northern states. They had slaves too, especially Pennsylvania. And you go and look who Pennsylvania was named after. So don't get into that misbelief where the North, there was no slavery going on in the North, because even a lot of the Republican politicians had slaves. All right, there's been over 12 presidents throughout U.S. history that had slaves. So this wasn't about freeing the Israelites, freeing our people, our ancestors. It was about something else much bigger because the North had to find a way to take the South out, and Civil War was one of the main solutions. All right. As far as slavery is concerned, that was just a cover, an excuse to use as a pawn for the Civil War. But it was really about trying to save the Union because the North did not want the South to become and overtake the North. When you look at the histories of the wars in this country, what are the two main things, the reason why we have war? It's always over money and resources and money. And you got to understand, when the South was becoming so strong, the North was afraid because they would have taken over all of the North. So the North had to come up with a solution. Civil War, let's save the Union. And by the way, let's just use the Israelites as a pawn to make the world believe that we're really fighting for them. No, they're not fighting for us, because I'm going to prove to you that we were never freed in the first place. Because according to scriptures and historical facts, anytime that Israelites were enslaved by another nation, they had to be given resources, whether that be in the form of money and land. All right. And I'm going to show you that that was not the case when they so-called claimed the Emancipation Proclamation. So let's look at what's written in the history books. In 1862, so-called President Lincoln issued his preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, which stated that enslaved people, Israelites, in those states or parts of states still in rebellion as of January 1, 1863, would be declared free. So let's look at this word declared free, because that's a state of mind. So were our people given land after they were so-called free? Were they given land? Were they given resources to be able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, as they like to tell us? How were they freed? Freed of what? I mean, our ancestors never got that 40 acre and a mule. I mean, and now they're all passed away and gone and mostly forgotten about. But nothing has been retributed. Nothing has been accounted for. Now it's still weighing in the balance. What were they freed of or from? What were they giving? What were they given? Not a thing. Even though our people are very resilient, we have been known to bounce back from extreme circumstances and still come on top. But every time we did that, here comes our enemies ready to throw bombshells at us and nuke us and, every way they can to destroy us. Because you look at all the Black Wall Streets, not just in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but all across the U.S., especially the Midwest, we had Black Wall Streets. Go look at the history of Lake Lanier. That wasn't always a lake. That was a community of Israelites who had successfully built a community from the ground up by working hard, coming together, and building their own homes and businesses. All right? Do the study of Lake Lanier, because it is very disturbing how they did our people. They killed our people because they were so afraid of our success and our growth. And they killed them where they were and left their bodies, and then created a man-made lake and buried our forefathers' bodies with this lake. And unto this very day, Lake Lanier still stands. And you heard the stories about all the events that's been happening, drownings and what have you. Hey, go figure. Yeah, right. Emancipation Proclamation. That was nothing but a farce straight from the pits of hell. Because throughout history, especially U.S. history, we've had to free ourselves. And even in doing that, we caught a lot of flack. We caught a lot of hell. It didn't come without some form of sacrifice. It didn't come without some form of attack on our people. It always, and still unto this very day. But now they got us to the point now where we're so divided and conquered. It's like we just continue to regenerate the hate amongst ourselves. So shortly after this so-called Emancipation Proclamation, you had what you called black codes back then. Black codes restricted black people, or Israelites, rights to own property, conduct business, buy and lease land, and move freely throughout the public. A central element of the black codes were so-called these vagrancy laws. All right, go look those up. It was a law which criminalized men who were out of work, especially Israelites. Well, it was all Israelites that they were attacking, or who were not working at a job that whites recognized. And here's the crazy thing about this, Israel. When our people were so-called, quote unquote, free, or the chains came off, all right, they were so afraid of our people. They were so afraid that they had to come up with certain laws. Now, some of you who are 60 and older and you grew up in the South, you should know about the term called reckless eyeballing. That's right. There's so many vagrancy laws, I can't even, it would take me another hour just to go through all of them. But some of you that are older, you can remember it was a thing called reckless eyeballing. I remember my granddaddy was telling me about that, and they would accuse you and they would throw you in jail for that. It's called reckless eyeballing. If you was walking down in a public area and you look the white person in the eye, whether it be a white woman or a white man, you can get charged for that. Crazy stuff. Where you had to, if you were walking on the sidewalk, and if there was some mud or water, you had to like literally jump in the water and let those white folks pass by. You cannot look them in the eye. All this kind of stuff. So they come up with all these crazy laws against our people just to put them back into slavery. Now, I'm going to show you the nail in the coffin that we were never freed when the so-called Emancipation Proclamation was announced or came into law. Here you are right here, the 13th Amendment. In your face says that you will still remain slaves, but you got to listen to these code words. You see, this is how the heathens roll, y'all. I mean, they come up with all kinds of ways to make it seem like you were freed, but in reality, you were never freed. You got to remember, you are still in their eyes and on the books are still considered a fifth of a person, a fifth of a human being. And this is why I said in a previous discussion that just because of who you are, it doesn't matter how educated you are, the schools you went to, how well you speak as a person, you would never be looked at as a true American in the eyes of our enemies. You will always be looked at as a lesser of a person. The moment they see your dark Israelite skin, bam, the light kicks on. You're automatically a criminal in their mind. You're less of a person in their mind. And this is subconsciously and as well as consciously, because this is the way we've been programmed. This is the way the world has been programmed and trained. Now let's look at the 13th Amendment. It says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, all right, get that, another code word, except, here's the biggest quote right here, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Now, here's the irony of this. This is where we come up with the whole vagrancy laws BS. Let's find a way. Okay, well, we're gonna put it in writing. We're gonna make the U.S. seem like we're freeing these so-called black folks, but we're really not freeing them. All we're doing is that we're just rewording slavery in a different way. Let's create the prison systems. Let's build all these jails. Yeah, we're gonna get a few whites up in there. You're gonna get a few other little races up in there. But we're mostly focusing on Israelites. We want to destroy them. You see, Psalms 83 must be fulfilled. So we're going to make sure we place these Negroes and destroy as much as these Negroes, as many as these Negroes we possibly can, because we don't want them rising up again. So the 13th Amendment was not a law passed to free the Israelites. It never was. It was just another way of telling you that we're going to keep slavery alive. But it's coded, it's hidden in the 13th Amendment, because what they've done now is that we say except as a punishment for crime. All right, now we have a motive. Let's create certain laws. Let's create certain things. Let's create the ghetto. Let's put these Israelites in a situation where at least majority of them won't even have a chance. Let's fail them in the schools. Let's create the ghettos for them. Let's put them all together. Let's treat them like animals. Let's put all these poisons in their communities, the drugs, all that stuff. Let's put their women on welfare. Let's get their men kicked out of the home, and let's create a generation of people who are going to regenerate the same thing over and over, so they can self-destroy themselves over time. And there you have it. We're going to have a lot of these people back in slavery again, because now we got the prison systems. And the likelihood of someone getting out the hood is very slim. Whether they get out on sports or whatever, they make the decisions. But we're going to make it so hard where these Israelites cannot even rise up amongst themselves. And then we're gonna divide and conquer and cause them to hate one another. We're gonna make the women, we're gonna weaponize the women and make them war against their own men. And we're gonna emasculate the men. We're gonna turn them into sissies and punks. And you're gonna have a nation of sissy and punks growing up that can't speak for themselves or defend anything, can't even change a tire, they get a flat. That's the kind of society we're going to create. You see how our enemies skillfully and decisively created a situation for our people. Now, we didn't make it no better. All right, we didn't make it no better because at the end of the day, guess what, Yasharel? We still have to make our decisions. I don't care if you grew up in the hood. I grew up in the hood. I grew up in the projects. You know, many of you grew up in the hood. Many of you grew up in the projects. But you still had to make your decision. All right? No one is putting a gun to your head and forcing you to be wicked. Even though our circumstances are much harder, we have to fight for everything. We have to be better, twice as better as our enemies to prove ourselves. You know, I get that. But again, at the end of the day, Yasharel, we still have to make a decision. And the biggest decision we need to make as a people, we need to get back to these laws, commandments, and statutes, because that's where the power is going to be. And now for this second part, we're going to get into something. I'm going to show you why man can never free what man can, why man can never have freed the Israelites. Why Abraham Lincoln could not free the Israelites. It's impossible for man to free us as a people. Why? Because what the Most High Yahweh has done, no man can undo. Let me repeat that again. What the Almighty Yahweh has done, no man on earth can undo. Because you got to realize it was the Most High who put his people in captivity because of the sins of our forefathers. And this is the same Almighty Yahweh that's going to bring us out of captivity with a strong and mighty hand. And this is why prophecy must be fulfilled. This is why we're going through what we're going through right now. And as I said in a previous lesson, this is your training. This is your testing. Now, many of you are going through it, going through the ringer, whether it be family issues, money issues, job issues, whatever your testing is, that is your training. Our people are going through the fire like never before, and it's going to intensify over the days, weeks, months, years. And even when our people, our forefathers were going through it in the U.S., especially during slavery, from the time that we got over here, all right, in the early centuries, and you get, the psychological damage on our people is just so futile. You can't, words cannot even describe. All right. If I were to try to explain, it wouldn't even do it no justice. And you may say, well, why did our people just succumb to that kind of stuff? Why did they just allow, there were a lot of our people are strong. How come we didn't rise up? Well, you had a lot of insurrections, a lot of it that went undocumented. So it wasn't like our people was just sitting there taking it and letting them bend them over anytime they got, any chance the enemies got. There were a lot of insurrections that we never got credit for. But at the same time, the fact remains that we went through and there was a lot of psychological damage. So the term, what we call Stockholm Syndrome, when you're beaten and trodden down by your enemy so much, you get to the point where you're so psychologically damaged that you defend your enemies. And see, and this is what our people are doing even today. This is why when they celebrate all these holidays, who do you think you're giving homage to? When you act like our enemies, who do you think you're giving homage to? You might not have chains and shackles on your hands and feet, but you still have them on your brains. Because we have allowed ourselves as a people to be so engrafted into this Babylonian system that we can't even decipher from the truth. But we know the truth, and we know what's right and what's wrong. And many of our people are going to fall by the wayside. But know this, the Most High is going to deliver his people. The Almighty Yahweh is going to deliver. As he put us in captivity with a strong and mighty hand, he's going to bring us out with a strong and mighty hand. Ezekiel chapter 20, starting with verse 34. And I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. Now that's some serious power, because it was the Almighty Yahweh who scattered us throughout these countries. And this is why I was saying earlier that what the Most High has done, no man can undo. And this is why when people look at Abraham as being the freer of Israelites, that's a bunch of lies. That was a cover up. The true freedom is when the Most High will deliver his people, and we will take all of the wealth of the world, not just the U.S., but all of the earth. All that wealth will belong to us. All right. And I'm going to show you some other things, how the Most High is going to turn the captivity, and he's going to place them upon our enemies. All right. Because we have we don't even have no idea of the severity of what these folks have truly done to us, because we've been so psychologically damaged that we can't see it. But I'm telling you, the wounds are so deep that no Band-Aid or bandage or tourniquet can heal it. It has to be a special healing from the Almighty Yahweh. So let me read this again. It says, and I will bring you out from the people, and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered, with a mighty hand, and with a stretched out arm, and with fury poured out. So this means that this is going to be a hellifying scene. This ain't going to be no quiet event. It's not going to be no secret event. It ain't going to be no secret rapture. The whole earth is going to see this event. There's going to be a shout like the world has never seen. And our enemies, they're going to realize who they truly effed with. That's right. Who they truly effed, with a capital F, F-E-D, with. And that's going to be an understatement. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Mitzrayim. So will I plead with you, says Adonai Yahweh. And I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. What is the covenant? The covenant that was never broke. The covenant that we are the true children of the Almighty Yahweh. The southern and northern tribes he will bring together in the last days. And I will purge out from among you the rebels, and them that transgress against me. I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Yasharel, and ye shall know that I am Yahweh. So it's going to be like the first Exodus, similar. The only difference between the first Exodus and the second Exodus is that the first Exodus, we were all in one place. All right. And we were led out through by Moshe, led by the Spirit, led by Hamashiach. This is going to be a lot different in a similar way, but we're going to be gathered from the four corners where we are. All right. And it's going to be more powerful. And this is going to be the last time we ever experience captivity, the very last time. Because what it says, the Most High is going to purge out the rebels. You know, he's going to get rid of all the wickedness amongst our people. Because look what happened when our people went into the first Exodus. All right. What happened? A lot of people had to die because they were stiff-necked, rebellious. A lot of people were doing wicked stuff, and the Most High had to destroy them. Unfortunately, you know, it's going to be a similar scene. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 30, verse 3. For lo, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, the northern and southern, or the southern and northern tribes, saith Yahweh. And I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. And verse 8 says, for it shall come to pass in that day, says Yahweh of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck, and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. Because remember, when you read in Deuteronomy 4:27-28, we were given for devouring, and we were given to the nations. We were a few amongst the Gentiles. In the book of Jasher, chapter 1:14, we were given to our enemies to be devoured and used for prey because of the wickedness of our forefathers. But we had to live out those curses. Prophecy will be fulfilled. And now we're seeing these powerful events taking place, and everything that's happening, Yasharel, is happening on account of his people. From the war that's going on with these Israelis and the Gaza, to all these crazy elections and the stuff that's going on, the Babylonian system, everything that's happening has to do with every bit of his chosen people. This is why it behooves us to repent and to get back to his laws, commandments, and statutes with all our hearts, mind, and soul. Because it would be a terrible shame for our people to be wicked and die in their wickedness and never see the light of day until they see judgment. That would be a crime, shame, especially when you're the chosen people of the book. Got to get right, Israel. Got to get right. Got to stop with the foolishness. And as we're being tested and tried, the Most High is also judging his people. Because remember, judgment will begin at the house of the Most High with his people first. Why? Because we are the chosen people. But at the same time, he is bringing destruction little by little on our enemies. And it's going to intensify and intensify as the months, years, and however much time goes by as prophecy is being fulfilled right before our very eyes. And we're just now starting to see the beginning rises of this madness that's happening as the Most High has foretold in his word. And Jeremiah 30:11 says, for I am with you, says Yahweh, to save you, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered you, yet will I not make a full end of you, but I will correct you in measure and will not leave you altogether unpunished. So the way the Most High is working, it's like he is taking all these pieces and he's moving them, and he's doing the trying, the testing, the judging on our people at the same time while he is destroying our enemies little by little. So you got to step back and let this process happen. So don't get upset when you find yourselves in diverse situations, because you're only being tested. The Most High is putting our people in situations where we have no other choice but to cry out to him. All right. We can surely see in plain sight what's happening. We can see the destructions that are increasing on the earth. We can see all the destruction that are happening to our enemies. But this is nothing. This is, like I said, this is only a small portion of the many things that are to come that will be much, much bigger. And when this whole process passes through, and when the Most High has put all the pieces together and he has fulfilled all of his prophecy, I'm telling you, his people are going to come out as fine and as bright as gold, shining in a bright, sunny day. So don't fret yourselves when you see the heathens living high off the hog. Don't fret yourselves when you see them living in mansions and you see how their wealth, there's a big gulf, an avalanche between the wealth of the heathens and the wealth that we have. All right. Because they have gained wealth off the backs of slaves. And even though they'll say, well, I wasn't there, but they benefited from their forefathers greatly. And everything is set in their favor. So let them enjoy their heaven. Let them enjoy their little piece of heaven, because it's getting ready to be snatched right from under their feet. Babylon must fall and will fall, because the only way that our people are going to be broken from these curses, this Babylonian system has to be broken in half and destroyed. And the only one that can do that is the Almighty Yahweh. That's the only way that our people are going to be broken and be able to see what's going on and to snap out of this mental illness that our people have been suffering from for thousands of years. But in the meantime, Yasharel, we have a lot of work to do. And our people are going to have to start making the right decision. Our people are going to, they are going to have to really see and wake up and see what's really going on around them and get back to these laws, commandments, and statutes that the Most High has given as your birthright, because it is your birthright. And we can do that. Just imagine if 30% of our people just woke up and made haste to keep the Most High's laws, commandments, and statutes with all their heart, mind, and soul. You know how quickly things would turn? Can you imagine the destruction you would see overnight? So while we're here on this earth, we got to do our part. And if we're not doing our part, then we're not helping our brothers, we're not helping our sisters. So therefore, it's up to you. If you know this truth, it is up to you to spread this message, whether they reject you or not. We are our brother's keeper. Always remember that. And with that being said, I say shalom and stay strong.